Hi, Flosstube. It's Arlene. It's been a couple weeks since my last video, and I'm really excited to be sitting here and doing this. It's Friday, May 5th, and I am pretty much on a planned schedule of doing a video about every 2 weeks. It's about 2 weeks since my last one. And I was thinking last night how I have some things going on tomorrow, Saturday, that I probably would not be able to do a video. And I was kind of bummed that I wouldn't be able to do it until Sunday. And I got to thinking, well, there's just no reason why I couldn't do it tomorrow, meaning Friday, late afternoon, early evening when I got home. And I just can't tell you how that just made my day to be thinking about, yeah, I'm going to do this. And I started to like pull out the things I was going to need last night, and all through the day today, I was thinking about what I'm going to talk about, and it just really helped me get through my day. So I don't know, for those of you who make videos, if you think the same way I do, but it was almost like I was thinking, I'm going to see my needlework friends tonight. And I'm not. I mean, I'm not seeing you. You'll see me whenever you get a chance to watching this video, and you'll it's just kind of funny how much being a part of this Flosstube community has really meant to me, and it seems like it means to lots of folks. So just how much I've been enjoying it, and I say that truthfully and honestly. Um, I, I just have enjoyed it so much. So I'm glad to be back today. I've picked out some of my really enjoyable projects to show you. I'm even going to conquer a little bit of, I guess you would say, the first step of editing, which is piecing together some video because of what I want to show you today, and that'll make sense when I get to it. First of all, a huge thank you for some shout outs. A Stitch Too Far, Ingeborg, I think I'm saying you correctly. Thank you so much for mentioning me and for sending folks my way. I love listening to you and hearing about you. You mentioned all kinds of cool stuff. I loved the last, I think it was on your last video, your geography lesson. That was so cool, so helpful. And thank you, Vanna, the Twisted Stitcher, for mentioning me. That was so sweet and kind. And I'm very curious to know if you've started your canvas work project, or if you decided to keep focusing on all your many gifts and talents and all those cross-stitch projects you have going on. It's neat to think that by my showing my variety of things, there have been so many folks who have commented about the canvas work that I've shown and just the other things. And I just say, you should do whatever you enjoy. And if that means trying something new, cool. I would love to be a helpful person if I could be, if you wanted to try something that I've done. But if you also just absolutely love what you're doing, then do that. A number of people commented about my lace demonstration in the last bobbin lace demonstration, and I'm so glad you found that interesting. I wanted to share a little piece right now, and then I'll do some more lace towards the end for those who would be interested in staying around. I have a little lace segment planned for the end. In the United States, in the United States, we have a couple of large needlework organizations: EGA, Embroiderers Guild of America, and ANG, American Needlepoint Guild. You may or may not know of them. You may or may not belong to one of them. I belong to both of those, and I'll be honest, it's basically for the magazines. I find them interesting. I get ideas. I don't know if I've ever actually stitched anything in either of those magazines. I just enjoy them. I did, because I was working on a project through, I'm a teacher through school. I did end up joining a local EGA group and did a workshop once with them. Anyway, those are the two needlework organizations in the United States. The lace organization in the United States is actually for North America, so it's US and Canada, and it's called IOL. Its initials are IOLI. IOLI stands for International Organization of Lace. So it's a little misleading. It's not international in that it covers the whole world. There actually is a lace organization that is more international, and that one's OIDFA. I'll get into that later. IOLI does a convention every year, just like EGA and ANG do big week-long seminars. IOLI does a week-long convention every summer. This and it in different places. This summer it is in the greater Philadelphia area. I'll just share this. If anybody, there we go. And I'll put a link to the website if anyone is interested. And the reason why I'm mentioning it is specifically there's a day where it's open to the public. And on that day, anyway, it's at a hotel in King of Prussia, which is in the Philadelphia area. And on the Wednesday, which 16th, would that be the 18th or the 19th? The Wednesday of that week is open to the public. And what you could see if you lived in the area, you were able to pop in. There is a huge vendor room. You could see what kinds of stuff people buy. There's a display area, so there'll be pieces laced on display, and that includes work of current people's work, and some years the display also includes antique laces. It just kind of depends what they've done for the display for this year. There's usually plenty of folks sitting around just working on their lace. You'll see them in the hotel lobby area. They'll probably have a room also set up for the public day where you could just wander in, and there'll be lace makers who are not in classes that day that are happy to talk to the folks that are visiting for the public. So depending on your lace level interest, you could actually learn a lot just swinging by for an hour or so. I just wanted to mention that. And if you're really interested, they do have on that Wednesday a one-day beginner class. So I'm just putting that out there. But now let me get to some other, but I'm looking at my notes. Oh, and I also wanted to mention, just before I get into my needlework things, just back to General Flosstube, I also had the cool experience of being recognized in public. Last weekend, I stopped in at my local needlework store, Needleworker's Delight, which is in Metuchen, New Jersey. They were running a day-long class with Sue Hollis, cross-stitch person. You may know her in the cross-stitch design world. She was there all day Saturday, all day Sunday doing finishing classes. I wasn't taking a class. The store was open. You could go. I was just curious to see what they were doing and pick up a thread or two while I was there. And one of the people taking the classes recognized me from Flosstube. So Elaine from the store last weekend, if you're there, hi, if you're watching. So it was just really cool for somebody to say, hey, do you do videos on Flosstube? That's the first time that has happened to me. Okay, so what I picked out to show you for today, I am going to start with some blackwork. You may have seen blackwork before. Blackwork is really not a whole lot different than taking just the back stitching part of cross stitch. Blackwork is just done with straight lines, typically, but there's lots of patterns. It's got a really interesting history. There's historical connections. You can read the history both through Moorish Spain time, where Catherine, who I believe was from Spain, princess in Spain, the Catherine of Aragon, who went and married, who was the first wife of Henry VIII. Some people will say she brought blackwork to England. The concept of black thread on white fabric. It has the sort of a look of lace-like on cuffs and ruffles. You'll see it in old paintings. It also evolved and changed in England such that by the time Queen Elizabeth came along, it had a sort of unique and own style by then, and then you see it distinctly in the portraiture of that time period. It's a simple enough look. Charts for blackwork will look like charts for cross stitch, and you'll just see straight lines and interesting designs and patterns. Some years back at a store that unfortunately closed, that was my local needlework store, I saw this pattern for a chessboard. There we go. And I just thought it was so cool. Leon Conrad is a designer from the UK, and it's called Queen Bess's Chessboard, inspired by Queen Elizabeth I. And I decided I needed to do this. And so I created my first large, oh, I might have to turn off that little light. My first large blackwork piece. And I'm trying to figure out if I turn off that light, if things are going to get better. Oh, I can just twist. There we go. Each square is different. Each square uses a thick black thread, a very fine black thread, and then a very fine gold. It's a Krynic cord, which is, I think it's a little bit thicker than blending filament. It stands out more than blending filament. And I just loved this piece. I'm still trying to figure out how to do this where you, oh, you don't get the glare that way. There we go. Okay. I had my framers, which was also the needlework store at the time, frame it so there was no wire on the back, and instead it's just got a sawtooth and little rubber things on all four corners so that it does sit flat on a table. And the reason why I did that was because I made chess pieces. So, for example, here's the king. So I had this idea that I wanted to make chess pieces. As I was working on this, I wanted to make chess pieces. Or I remember, I thought this would be so special. I would find some cool chess set, and then I couldn't. And then I thought, well, I'll make a cool chess set. And I had this idea that this border, which I think I created, the border wasn't in the original pattern, but to me it needed a little bit of a border. I would make a little strip of stitching, and for the gold, so black and gold, and I just reversed, actually no, I didn't reverse the colors. Oh, I know, I tried and it just didn't look right, so I didn't even bother. And it was probably a Michael's craft store, I was trying to figure out what I could do to make the pieces, and looking in the wood, the little wood piece section at the time, finding all little baggies of all different size things, and just letting my imagination think it out. And if you could picture this piece, the king, is actually made up of 1, 2, 3, 4 different wood pieces that I had to figure out what could be king-like, even finding this little extra thing, ooh, that'll go on top, because here's the queen. The queen has got the same 3 pieces, just a different little wood thing on this top. Okay, so let me use all of one. So there's the king, there's the queen. The only difference between them is their top. Here's the bishop. Finding something to work for the knight was the hardest thing. To get anything even remotely horse head shape, you could say. But this base and this spool, it's like a wooden spool, like a wooden thread spool, basically was used for all the pieces. And then it was just a matter of putting something, just wood shapes. That's all they were, the wood shape area of Michael's. And this thing was hard, but came up with a solution. Here's the rook. This one actually has a empty thing on top. And then the pawns. And I was just so pleased with itself. So here's the gold set. So you got the king, the queen, bishop, knight, rook, pawn. And I just love my chess set. I very rarely played it, but the idea is I could take this chessboard off the wall, take out my set, and so I found this box. This must have been from Marshall's or TJ Maxx or something. Just the right size box. I just sewed up these little, this, you could see here's the other rook and knight and bishop in here. These little special pocket things. It's where I all keep them all in the box. Here's my chess set. So, this designer, remember the date on this book, but a few years, the date on this book is in 2002, well, originally 2000, revised edition 2002. I must have just been keeping my eye on his website, or I don't know, somehow I saw posted a new design coming, and it was I think the only time in my life I ever had, again, this is a store that closed some years ago, but I saw this was coming. It was going to be new at market. I don't even know what market it was at the time, but I brought her, I still have it sitting in here. I said, I saw this online. Is this something you could get when you go to that market thing? She said, yes. And so this came out, what I'm about to show you, came out in, 2003. Oh. So it must have been right around the same time period. Medieval Majesty. I was just floored by that. And I remember thinking, I'm not sure if I'm going to do something that big. But I wanted to get it. And then when I got it, and I just loved it. Again, I liked the idea. I mean, kind of like the chessboard, you could do a small bit and feel the satisfaction of being done with that piece. This was all broken up. And you could read in the introduction, it talks, the inspiration for this, called Medieval Majesty, the inspiration for this is something called a cosmati, C-O-S-M-A-T-I, a cosmati pattern, a pavement, in Westminster Abbey. And you could Google the images of it, but some years, many years later, a friend of mine who was visiting London brought me back a postcard, which I was so pleased to have. So this is a postcard, like an aerial view of this actual pavement that this design was inspired by. So I have to do this, and you could so see it was inspired by. It's not an exact replica, but you could see where the geometry is inspired by it. And according to this booklet, this pavement is in a part of Westminster Abbey where coronations take place. So in theory, sometime in the future when there will be a coronation, we're all going to be on the lookout for the floor right near like it's literally right where the throne is, supposedly. Every so often I keep meaning to like go look up on YouTube. I know you can find like the old footage of Queen Elizabeth's coronation to see if there's even an angle of a camera to see if you can see this. But anyway, so here we go. This is kind of big. Here we go. And one thing, just to comment on this, which I so loved it, this all used, well, it was 2 thicknesses of thread. I meant to look to see which thread it was. Like basically a slightly thicker one for some outlining parts, and then a slightly finer one for the details. And then, and I know I'm purposely not putting it up close yet, you from a distance probably can't even tell that there's some gold in there, but there actually is. And now I'm going to bring it up close. Can you see? I got my chess pieces here. Like right along the edges, there's some gold that's couched. And, you know, it's a great story of what you can't even imagine and what makes a difference. So the gold, which was a treasure braid, I think, that was in the pattern, my needlework store at the time, she had to order it for me. And so I'm tooling along, and I already had quite a good amount done. And this gold came in, and it was just, I mean, I bought it. She ordered it for me. Of course I got it. It just looked awful. I mean, it didn't look very gold to me. It looked kind of greenish gold. So I just thought, I'm not using that stuff. But yet as I kept going along, I think I was working, no, I guess I was working from I did the center and then kind of expanded outward. I did keep saying to myself, it looks a little naked, that it really did need something. And so going back to the same Krynic gold family that I used for the chessboard, I took a thicker braid, oh no, I know ribbon, a Krynic ribbon, and I think it's a 16th inch Krynic ribbon in that shade gold, and couched it down, and tried a little sample area, and I was like, oh my gosh, that just makes it pop. It made such a difference. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. It looked naked, and I put in that little extra touch, and it made such a difference. And so that extra gold is in there. And so then, of course, you could see the gold in the mat and the gold in the frame as well. And so this is a big piece. Now, in preparation for doing this Flosstube, I was Googling to see if Leon Conrad is still around. And you can find, like any designer, you can find, like on eBay and a few other places like that, some designs. And I'm sure there's probably some stores that may have some of his stuff, here and there that just hasn't done anything with it. But I also found a website, somebody's part of a website, and it's something like Missing in Action Designers. And he's listed there, and she or he, I forget, it was like a blog of, when was the last time this person was heard from. So no idea if he's still alive. He's certainly not designing anymore, because I think she said the last that this was something that was written in 2015, and the last she found any record of him was like in 2011 or so. So I don't know, and most of his other pieces were smaller things. These were the two big things that he designed. So a related blackwork thing that came from that came in 2012. So in 2012, I don't know if anyone here is familiar with the magazine called Piecework. Their tagline, maybe I thought their tagline was on the cover. Their tagline used to be, where needlework and history go hand in hand. But maybe not. Maybe I'm just making that up. Or maybe it just doesn't exist anymore. Anyway, where needlework and history go hand in hand. It's been around for at least 20 years or so. It's gone through its ups and downs and changes, whatever. There have been a few times over the years where they've had contests. In 2012, I saw advertised. It's a kind of magazine where I will go and look to see if there's anything of real interest. And then once a year, I always buy the issue. The May-June issue is always a lace issue. Nowadays, it's a lot more knitting lace than it is bobbin lace, tatting, the lace that I'm interested in. But I've been collecting all the lace issues, so I got to go out in the next couple weeks, hit my Barnes & Noble and get it. Piecework. 2012, they were doing a contest. That year, their contest was pin cushions. And it was fairly openly worded. Create a pin cushion. You could submit up to 3. Like, the first stage of judging was through photographs. You could submit up to 3. And there was something about it, my stitching at that time, like it was just like the right thing at the right time. I'm going to do this. And so I planned out this idea that I was going to do 3 of them. I ended up only having 2 completed by the time of the deadline. I did end up creating the third one that I had planned out, and those, and I will definitely be sharing that third one with you at another time. The 2 that I'd finished at the time of the deadline, one was a lace one, which I'll have to remember to put that on my show them lace list. That one didn't make it to the second stage. It was, I submitted it as first round. But the one that I did that did make it past the first round, the contest at the time, that contest, it could be your own design or it could be a commercial design. They did allow that. And so I did what you could say an adaptation, and this was more sort of, I just wanted to give this a try. So I made a blackwork biscornu, and the designs are from 2 of the squares of the chessboard. So there we go. On this side of the biscornu is 1 square from the chessboard with the black and gold opposite. Like this guy and this, I can't do this with the camera. Here we go. This guy and this guy are the same. This guy and this guy are the same. And the difference between these two are just about where the fine black thread and the fine gold thread are placed. And then on this side of the biscornu, all four are the same. It's just that these two are the same, these two are the same, and again, it's just where the fine black and the fine gold are, they just are reversed. So this one made it past the first stage of judging, and so then I sent it in, and it won honorable mention. And so this issue of Piecework, which is September, October 2012, had pictures of the winners. They were 5 categories. How did they do it this time? There was a knitting category, a needlework category, a beading category, a lace making category, a crochet category. There was one overall winner for that, and then there was a group of honorable mentions. And here in this picture, nope, there we go. There I am. So that was my little contest in 2012. So I've taken you through a lot of black work there, and now it's time to move on to something else. Okay, moving on. Oh, there goes all my chess pieces. All right, switching gears here. I know I mentioned in another Flosstube about a great podcast that exists called We Talk Fiber or Fiber Talk. They kind of use both names. And they've been saying for people who like to play with needles, if you haven't given them a try, you certainly should, especially if you're like me and you've been watching Flosstube. I don't do it all the time, but a lot of times watching Flosstube while I'm stitching. But then there's times where I'm doing a stitching thing that I'm just so focused. It's like, I can't watch Flosstube tonight because I'm going to want to look, or I need to find someone on Flosstube that I don't want to look, I just want to listen to them and so on. Well, listening to a podcast is great because there's no looking involved, it's just listening. So I'll put a link to them below so you know how to find them. The reason I'm bringing it up now, so it's Gary and Christine who do it. In one of their recent podcasts, they didn't have a guest on. It was just the two of them talking. Christine is much more in the knitting world. Gary is much more in the needlework world. They're a great pair. Christine recently decided she wants to take up one of needlework, and she's jumping in full force with a fairly complex counted canvas work design. And so she ordered or sent away for a canvas work pattern from Debbie Designs. I think that, yeah. And Debbie Delights, Diamond Delights is the pattern. And her statement was, I thought I was ordering a pattern, and instead I got a manual. And sometimes, depending on what it is, counted canvas work patterns could look like a manual. So here's my example of what that could look like. Check this out, people. Okay. So I'm excited to share with you what I did with this project. This is called From Molehill to Mountain, a woman by the name of Pamela Gardner. I think the reason it must have been an ad in probably EGA, Embroidery Guild of America magazine. She must have put an ad in. There might have been a review for it in there. That's my guess, because the reason I know I got this by ordering it directly from her, like sending an email to her, that direct. And there's something to me really satisfying about sending a check directly to the designer. So the background is she is part of an EGA guild. She wanted to design a project. The project was supposed to be small. It grew and grew and grew. That was why it was a molehill. It grew into a mountain. And what was a pretty cool thing became that much greater, and she was encouraged to get it published. And I mean, you could see it's like a self-published thing. You create this amazing thing, you bring it to Staples, you create, this, and then you sell it. And so there's a few different ways to do this project. The cover design is the concept of get an over-dyed, well, it wasn't floss, it must have been water lilies or watercolors or water wildflowers or whatever it was, but an over-dyed, and do things with that. But the other way to do it, which is the way I did it, is make it a color study. Now, I'm going to turn this like this because when I show you what I did with it, it's just going to show it. It's just going to remind you of it. Okay. So, the idea of this was to learn an awful lot about color theory, and I learned so much. I'm going to use this to show you, and then I'm going to show you what I did. So, in this piece, in this example, the person who did this one used green as their main color. And in this square, you're focusing on just the color green. And I believe it was 5 shades of green. So a monogamous. Is that the version of it? Color scheme? Yeah. Up here is the complementary color scheme. So opposite of green on the color wheel. Ooh, I meant to get my color wheel. I'll get it out in a moment. Opposite of green on the color wheel is orange. Green and orange in this. Sorry, it's like doing a book to a group of kids. Over here is split complementary, which is to say, is that one split? No, not split complementary, excuse me. This one is analogous colors, which is to say, take the main color, which is green, and then what colors are near it on the color wheel? Yellow, orange, yellow, green, orange, green, so on. This one is a triad. If you take a color wheel and make a perfect equilateral triangle, you will get the 3 colors that form a triadic or triad color scheme. Looks like this one. Should have gotten the color wheel out. Can I pause? All right. I don't think I actually paused. I think I actually created another video, but that's okay, because I'm going to figure out how to piece them together. Okay, now I got a color wheel. So I want to decide. So a triad, let me rotate the triad. So if your main color was green, the triad would go to orange and violet. I don't know how well I agree with that. You'll see mine in a minute. This one is split complementary. That's supposed to be reddish. Maybe it's just the bad picture. Again, you'll see mine in a minute. There's a reason why I'm holding this up here, because I can't hold it when I'm filming mine very well. So opposite here, this is supposed to be split complementary. Split complementary means you go opposite from the color wheel. The opposite's supposed to be red, but instead you use the colors that are right next to it. And then this last box is supposed to be a tetrad or tetrad, which is to say any 4 colors that form a rectangle on the color wheel. And you could see my gray boxes on this color wheel. Like, you have options, basically. So what I did turned out to be awfully large, and so I can't even hold it up very well, so that's why I'm going to film in a different way. So hold your horses, I'll be right there. So here's what I created, which is I ended up doing the design 4 times. And I'll explain why, which is a little bit complicated, but bear with me here. So I graduated from Wellesley College, which is outside of Boston. Wellesley has a tradition where each class has a class color, and the colors rotate. So when there's a graduating class that is purple, the following year's incoming students will be a purple class. And so those 4 colors just have always meant something to me, just that rotation of those 4 colors, red, yellow, purple, and green. When I was sitting reading that manual, of course, I decided that I wanted to do the color theory version and not the overdyed thread analysis version. And I just thought I couldn't decide what I wanted to do, which color I wanted to focus on.
And then I realized, so I was working on this project at the same time that I was actually writing a book about Wellesley's history, just because it was another passion project of mine at the time. And just, well, it all came together. So to get a sense of how big this is, I'm going to get up close. I'm actually going to stand on chairs here, which I've lined up. Give me a second. And to give you a sense, each one of these, and now I'm a little too close. Each one of these is about the size of an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Okay, so just to kind of go through the basic idea, each square has variations of one kind of stitch. So these are all one kind of stitch, but variations. This is a different kind of stitch, variations. If anyone is really interested, I'm happy to, in a comment, tell you about the different stitch variations, but I'm gonna not drive you all crazy. So here's the green one. Green is the main color, 5 different shades of green. Here's the complement, which has red. The analogous colors, you have a choice on the color wheel. So let's see if this, oh cool, here we go. So if I'm gonna hold up green, here I'll hold on this side. At the top, you could go in the yellow-green, yellow direction. You could go in the blue-green, blue direction. You could see what I did there. The triad, you will see overall in this piece, I kept the use of orange to the absolute minimum. This is only one of 2 places where you'll see any orange. I'm just not an orange person. Split complementary. So there's bits of red that show up there, but again, I was trying to avoid use of orange too much. So I really went more with the red violets than the red oranges. And here's how the whole project got tied together, was that the 4 colors that I chose to use happened to be a tetrad on the color wheel. Green, yellow, purple, and red form a tetrad on the color wheel. I can't, all right, I can't do it. You trust me on that, okay? So all 4 colors show up in this square on all 4 pieces. So the purple one, and for those who want to ask, I was a purple class, so maybe I'm biased, but I'll say the purple one was my favorite. 5 shades of purple. Yellow is the complement. Blue violets going on there with analogous. There's green and orange showing up again. Yellow violets, yellowish colors, but I didn't get too far away from the real yellow. They're all 4 colors showing up there. With the yellow, oh, I got a little glare going on. Let me see if I can adjust. Okay. 5 shades of yellow, really hard to do. Just saying there, people. It's really hard to do. The complement purple, greens in the yellowish yellow greens for analogous, red, yellow, blue are the primary colors. They're obviously form a triad. Here's purple, red, violets going on for split complement. They're all 4 colors. And I'm not going to fall. Here we go. So, as it just turns out, the red one was the first one I did. And it's so interesting to think about this. If you needed to create 5 shades of red, it's the only color that when you go to the lighter shades of the color, you actually think of another color, because the lighter shades of red you call pink. And you know, it's just a little thing that I ran into as I was doing this one. And again, it taught me a lot about, I learned so much about color theory as I did this and processed a lot of it out. Green is the complement. There's a lot of red violets in there for the analogous. Again, all primary colors, yellow, blue, red are a triad. Did the split complement there, so you get some greens, greens coming in there, all 4 colors. Now, what I think is so cool about this square is that if you look at all 4 of them, I'm going to get off my chairs so that you could, I'll take one last visual here. Oh, by the way, it hangs above a fireplace. I never use this fireplace. Never. Because trust me, if I used a fireplace, there would not be needlework hanging above it. But just in case anyone spotted the fireplace there. If you look at that lower left corner, how different the image, it's the exact same shapes and everything, but because of the placement of the colors, it comes across looking so different. So doing all four of them, having it framed together, we will not talk about the cost of framing something this size. Just was another passion project, and it meant a lot to me, and it represents just an important part of my life, just working on this throughout the year or so that I was also working on a book project, and it taught me so much. There's a lot of DMC floss in there, some Krynic, and some other specialty threads as well. It really introduced me to a lot in counted canvas work, in color theory work, and in just understanding all kinds of possibility in needlework.
So one last thing that I wanted to share. I've shared some of my big projects here in this one video, but I just wanted to make sure to get those in. I realized I didn't let you know, I didn't have any stitching updates. It's not that I haven't been stitching the last couple weeks. I just have been working on very intensely on a special project, which I'm hoping to share with you next time. So bear with me on that. So just a little bit on lace, given that there was enough interest. So I'll try in many videos for as long as I can make it last to share a little bit of bobbin lace pieces with you, or something related to bobbin lace. So I think I mentioned this before, I don't actually have too many lace pieces framed or otherwise finished off, so I may get those in pretty soon and then be stuck sharing with you just a lot of things that are in my sort of portfolio thing. But this is one that I had framed because I was going to show it in an exhibit and I needed to finish it off. Lace, one thing that you'll see a number of lace patterns for is to create a fan, and I did that. One thing I learned from this is a very valuable, so it's in like a shadow box frame, and I just did this framing myself. This is just like a, Michael's shadow box, use your 40% off coupon, the whole 9 yards thing. One thing that I learned is a very valuable lesson for, there we go. Is it better if I speak from here? No, it's not. Well, that's okay. So this would be a torchon design, which I'd said earlier is just sort of a very, I don't want to say basic, but I mean it is in lace world. It's a continuous design. I forget how many bobbins were on it at one time. I purposely decided to use an accent color of blue, which just made it look really lovely. I learned a valuable lesson from this, which is when you are making a lace fan, if you are choosing to actually get it to mount it on fan sticks, you should really buy your fan sticks first and then resize your pattern based on the size of your fan sticks. Because I made this lace and I liked it enough that I knew I wanted to finish it, meaning put it on some fan sticks and put it in a frame. And I discovered that it really isn't a good size for any fan sticks that existed out there. It should be, well, it looks fine. I found someone who makes them here in the United States, that a husband and wife. The wife was a lace maker for a long time. The husband, woodworker, he makes bobbins, he makes all kinds of lace related things, makes fan sticks. I wish if I was redoing this, I'd probably make the lace just a little bit bigger or a little bit something. Anyway, in the process of buying the fan sticks from them, they were just such a nice couple to deal with. They were just, I was on the phone and she was just sharing with me some of the things that her husband makes. And she's like, and we also have these babies, although I feel like she didn't call them babies. She didn't call them mini fan sticks. She had a cute name for them. And I was intrigued, and she said, oh yes, and one of a certain lace designer has even designed patterns to go specifically with these lace fan sticks, these baby fan sticks. So I got them, and all right, even putting this in front of a piece of white paper is not, should have a piece of colored paper up here. Well, can you see it? So, this is a little, I'm still looking for a piece of, this is going to drive me nuts. Oh, here. Oh, perfect. Look at this. Okay. So these are little baby fan sticks. They actually work. They do actually close if you wanted them to. I mean, they won't close all the way because the lace gets in the way. And this was a little pattern made up to fit very nicely on the fan sticks. And what it is, it's a pin meant to wear like as a brooch, which I've worn at lace events. I haven't really worn it other places. I don't know if it'd be appreciated. I mean, I could. It looks perfectly fine, but I could also people saying, "Hey, did you get that at Marshall's?" Or something like that. There's only certain people that could appreciate something handmade, as I think we all know. So I just think that's that's a little piece of lace that I do enjoy wearing when I can, and I just like it. It's real fan sticks there. So if you stayed with me this long, thank you so much. Again, I just need to say how much I have loved being a part of the Flosstube community. I so love the comments. I've been responding to all of them, engaging in conversations to the extent we can in the way we are here has just been wonderful. I try to comment on the videos that I watch just to let you all out there know how much I enjoy what you are giving in your time and in your sharing. I know we all have so much to give, whatever it is, whether you're sharing your newest purchases, whether you're sharing, hey, I put in 5 stitches, those of you who are participating in Stitch Mania and sharing, look what I've done over the last few days, 5 days now in, it's all good. So thank you so much for whatever you are giving to this community. And if what you're giving is just simply a like or a thumbs up and a appreciative comment, that's all good. So I appreciate all of it, genuinely, honestly. And I will look forward to when I can come back and share more with you. Thank you so much. Bye.